Take a great breath when you hear this speaker. Again, Dr. Fran Harris, business expert, corporate trainer, TV and sports celebrity. I mean, she brings 30 years of entrepreneurial experience, starting with her journey from her first business as a snow cone entrepreneur at just 9 years of age to where she is today, the CEO of a 20-year training and development company with a Fortune 100 clients. And she's a passionate believer in the possibility of the human spirit. She's also an advocate for entrepreneurs, for companies that do good, as well as startups and women who mean business. She's also a real estate developer set to break ground on her first sports facility soon. She's a 20-year national television personality and sports broadcaster, a former championship basketball star at the University of Texas who inspires athletes of all ages. She's a WNBA champion with the Houston Comets and former Procter & Gamble sales executive, a 20-year Fortune 100 speaker, trainer, coach, and consultant who refuses to be a slave to the dollar bill, but instead helps companies play at a higher level by committing to epic levels of transparency, service, and appreciation for its customers and employees. But what Fran is most proud of is the way in which she moves in the world with truth, compassion, power, ingenuity, and zero regard for the status quo. She is quite simply a force of nature, and you're going to experience it for yourself, my friend, as you hear her gladly. She wrote the foreword for my book, Your Breakthrough is Guaranteed. And as a matter of fact, Les said, I thought I was writing the foreword. I said, no, I'm coming up with something new. Dr. Fran's writing the foreword, and you write the afterward. But we've spoken together at her Black Millionaire Summit here in Dallas, and been together some different times. But I'm telling you, my friend, you are in for a treat today. Surely this is a choice servant of God who, my friend, has great professionalism and has your best and your success in mind. So get ready, my friend. Remember, note takers are money makers, but Dr. Breakthrough says action takers are bigger money makers. Dr. Fran, come bless us.
Dr. Stan, I need to take you on the road with me for that introduction. Thank you, my brother. Thank you so much for that. I appreciate that. I am very excited to be here. In fact, I'm so excited to be here that I was actually on the call at 7 Eastern, even though the itinerary clearly says 8 Eastern. I was that excited. And I'm a late person.
Well, I was up praying
really late. That's why I was on the call at 7 Eastern. So very, very encouraged by the opening declaration, the prayer. I'm so excited to be here. So excited to be able to spend some time with you. You know, yesterday went to Walmart, and if you are paying attention to what's happening in the world, of course, then you know that a couple of days ago, another terrible act happened in the world at Walmart. And it was such an eerie feeling to I literally had to make myself, we're going to be totally transparent, make myself go to the grocery store because I was so disturbed by what happened in Texas, which is my home state. So disturbed by what happened that day, and then something happened the next day. And so I'll go to Walmart, and I'm telling you, y'all, I'm looking around, I'm watching my back, I'm watching people at the checkout. Everybody, black, white, red, white, and blue, it doesn't matter what color you wore yesterday, I was on high alert. And then I was reminded of something my mother and my father used to say to us every week: God is in control. Don't worry about it. God is in control. So I'm getting my detergent, I'm getting my toothpaste, I'm still on high alert. And then I realized that what happened in Texas and what continues to happen all around the world, obviously, people will tell us that these are troubling times. People will try to tell us that these are terrible times. But I believe that these are terrific times. I really do. In spite of what is happening in the world, I do believe that these are terrific times because I believe that God is calling us to wake up, speak up, stand up, and show up. If you have never done any of those things, this is the time to wake up to what is happening in this world, to speak up for what you believe to be the truth in this world, to stand up for what you know is right in this world, and to show up the way God has called you to show up. So that's how I wanted to start this morning because, again, full transparency, yesterday was a tough day for me. because I'm just like, what in the world is going on? But then I understand, and I can get very quiet because I know that despite all the decisions that the people who think they're in control are making, that God is truly in control. So today is about leadership. One of my favorite topics in the world is leadership. I have studied leadership my entire life, always been very fascinated by how people can truly just kind of take people on a journey, not that they want them to go on, but that the journey that the people that they may be leading need to go on. And so I have an acronym for LEAD that has been with me for a while, and occasionally I will change a couple of the letters. But this morning I feel led to talk about LEAD, and the first L in my acronym is listen. Is listen. I think sometimes people believe that great leaders, even though they may be fantastic orators, they may be fantastic speakers, fantastic trainers, one of the greatest qualities of salespeople, as some of you already know, but certainly one of the greatest qualities of leaders is the ability to listen, is the ability to hear. And so many times when you're charismatic, when you're on fire, when you're dynamic, you want to be the loudest voice in the room. You want to be the one taking up all the space in the room, but tremendous leaders have the ability to be present with the people that they are leading and to listen, to seriously listen to the hopes, the desires, the doubts, the fears, the aspirations of the people that they're leading. And so I learned this very early in my basketball career. By the way, I didn't start playing basketball until I was 15 years old, which, as most of you know, is very old these days to start playing a sport. And I remember watching the people on my team who thought they were leaders. And then I remember watching the people that I resonated with. And the people I resonated with were all the people who were always the people who were not necessarily telling us what to do, but the people who were showing us how to do it. And they weren't necessarily the loudest voice in the room. They weren't necessarily the top scorers on the team, but they were the people who were investing in us, the people who were putting their arms around us and helping us get through practice, the people who, when we talked about how hard our day was, were sitting there listening to us. So the skill of listening is it's difficult for some people. We all raise our virtual hands. We all know that we have people in our lives right now who we think, we may not tell them this, they don't listen. They don't listen. You're not listening. And yet they believe that they are in a position to lead. So listening is very simple and also very difficult. And it's difficult for some of us because we believe that what we have to say is more important than what the other person has to say. Amen. Everybody thinks that what they have to say, no, you don't need to talk. Let me talk. Because what I have to say is far more important than what you have to say. But when you're leading people, the one thing that they must believe to lead you is that you have their best interest at heart. And the only way they can believe that is if they've experienced you listening to them. Not just listening to what they say, listening to, paying attention to them, investing, pouring into them. And that is so missing in our world today, from the top to the bottom. We have a president, regardless of whether you voted for the president who's in the White House or not, we have a president who wants to be the loudest voice in the room. And the president wants you to be thinking about him all the time. I was saying this on a Facebook Live last week. I was saying, it's not about whether you like Mr. Trump or dislike Mr. Trump. He is an outstanding marketer because he has you thinking and talking about him all the time. And that is how you move product. His product happens to be his agenda, the way he thinks about things, his propaganda, whatever that is. Again, fan or not a fan is not the issue here this morning. But what I do not like about our current leadership, and not just Mr. Trump, is that they are not listening to the cries of the people who they want to follow them, right? They're listening to the people who are in agreement with what they're doing, who will espouse exactly what they're doing. But leadership is so much about taking a step back and listening to what I'm saying and what I am not saying. So if you are a leader on this call, and I believe you are because you're here this morning, take an inventory of how well you listen. Take an inventory of how much you're talking when other people are talking. Take an inventory of how much you're getting ready. It's kind of like double dutch, hopscotch when I was growing up. You know how you're kind of getting ready to jump rope? You get, as people are talking, you jump, you're getting ready to get your turn in to say what you have to say. But the power of listening will transform the people who you want to follow you. The power of truly being present and hearing what people are saying and what people need in their lives will transform your leadership. So that is the first L. The E in lead is elevate. And elevate. People will talk about sending the elevator back down, right? Once you made it, once you've come up, sending the elevator back down. Elevation is about edification. We're familiar with that as Christians. We're familiar about edifying each other, bringing people up. And there's not a whole lot of that happening in the world today. I want to remind us again that God is calling us to wake up, speak up, stand up, and show up. And one way that we can do that is to elevate the people who are on the journey with us. Elevate the people who are on the journey with us. And there are so many opportunities that we have every single day to elevate people. I was at the WNBA All-Star game last week in Vegas, and I was speaking. I was there for like 4 or 5 days, and I was speaking to a number of people. I had to speak on the program, but I also met a number of people that I had met, the owner of the Aces, which is the women's team there, and meeting some great people from Nike and just various companies. And every conversation I was in, while people were trying to edify me, the whole time they were talking, I was listening, but I was also thinking of all the people that these people needed to meet, right? How many times are we trying to get fat off the land? How many times are we trying to make sure we get the deal? But the whole time I was meeting all these great people, I was saying, oh, you need to meet so-and-so. You need to meet this person. Oh, you need to, this is what was going on in my head because it's been ingrained in me to elevate. It's been ingrained in me to edify other people. It's been ingrained in me to bring people along. It's been ingrained in me that I can never win a championship by myself. I can never fulfill my mission by myself, whatever that is. I'm going to need some teammates. I'm going to need some people along the journey with me, walking with me, pushing me as well. So the elevation and being in an organization, I was loving all the chants. I was loving I wrote some stuff down as the introduction was happening was don't follow the 97%, but elevate people along the journey. And elevation is not just about introductions to other people. That's certainly another part of it, but it's truly honoring the vision that people have for their lives and helping them to get there. Most of us have heard this saying. I'm sure Dr. Stan can tell you. It's probably Jim Rome that says, bring more people along the closer you get to your mission, right, Dr. Stan? It's like the more people you help, the more you help yourself. And I think most people kind of live in this world that's it's gratification and all about me, don't realize the power that happens and the speed at which you're able to accomplish your big vision when you elevate people, right? When you start to bring some people along with you. Am I right, Dr. Stan?
You're right, my sister. You're doing some good talking. I'm listening. So stop talking so I can practice what you said.
I like that. I like that. Implementation in the moment. That's spot on. Implementation, execution on the go. So the elevation is something that as leaders, I've been captained on most of the teams that I've been on. And being a captain and being a leader, let's be real, it's not an easy thing sometimes because you're like an easy target. And one of the things that I think has helped me as a leader throughout my life, whether it was in basketball, whether it was at Procter & Gamble, leading a sales organization, was understanding that when you elevate people, they are less concerned with, as the kids these days say, taking slugs at you. They're less concerned with shooting you down because they know that the power that you have is not necessarily in your ability to do all the things that you're really good at, but in your ability to help them achieve the things that they want. So the E is elevate. We got listen, we got elevate. The A, I typically change this out depending on kind of what I really feel led is necessary in the moment. But today we're going to go with accountability. And I think most of us can agree that every leader, every great leader we've ever come in contact with has been someone who understood the power of accountability. I have a t-shirt, a bright pink t-shirt that has huge letters on it that says accountability is a superpower. Accountability is a superpower. But what we see a lot in the world today, we see a lot of, well, that wasn't me. We see a lot of blaming. We see a lot of shaming, but we don't see a lot of, you know what, that's my fault. You know what, that's my bad. What happens in our world today, it seems like people aren't responsible and accountable until they get caught. You know, people, especially we see this in politics, like we know these things are to be true, and yet the person who is being accused of them is not accepting responsibility. They're not accountable. And there is nothing more, that there's no quality that will destroy your ability to lead people than your lack of accountability. So let's all be clear about what accountability is. It is accepting what is and what is not about you, right? It's not necessarily just saying, oh, yes, I wasn't very good at that. It's also accepting the pluses and the minuses of who you are, right? The pluses and the minuses of what make you you. I remember in the movie Jerry Maguire, many of you will remember that from the 90s, where Cuba Gooding Jr. was this outrageous football player, and he was screaming on the phone with his agent, Jerry Maguire, and at some point he says, these are the ABCs of me, baby. I mean, basically he was saying, take me as I am. These are the ABCs of me. And not that he wasn't willing to change, but he was declaring in that moment, these are the pluses and minuses of who I am. I'm working on the minuses, but believe me, you're going to acknowledge the pluses of who I am. So accountability in leadership becomes critical because people are looking for people to not just, again, tell them what to do, but to show them how it is done. And I find so many times that leaders and people who want to stand at the front of the line and beat their chest and tell us to follow them are constantly not showing us how it's done. They're telling us what to do. They're saying you need to be these things. You must be accountable. But when the time comes for them to be accountable, they are missing in action. They are absolutely missing in action. And accountability, again, big word for something that's very difficult for some people to do, to just say, you know what, I was wrong. Those 3 words have changed nations. Those 3 words have changed relationships. We know that they've transformed relationships. I was wrong. You know what? I made a mistake. You know what? I was in error. You know what? That wasn't what I thought it was. Acknowledgement that you've done something wrong, acknowledgement that you've made a mistake transforms relationships. And yet those 3 words, any form of those 3 words, seem to be the hardest thing for people to say, because we've been brought up in a world, and the longer we live, the more people are encouraging us to be prideful. The more people are encouraging us to stick with our story, We see this so much in the news. We see this from our politicians. We see this from our coaches. We see this from our athletes. We see this from our executives. Stick with the story. And yet the ability to just humble yourself and to say, I was wrong. I made a mistake. We can't sit with that, you know, and I think most of us, if we're honest on this call, have had moments when we were trying our best not to apologize. We're trying our best not to ask for forgiveness. We're trying our best not to admit that we were wrong about something. But I can certainly speak in my life that nothing has transformed my relationships with my family, with my friends, with people that I do business with, than a high, uncompromising level of accountability, right? I see so much of us in us that we're trying to make sure that we look good, that despite any efforts, we don't want to look bad, right? We don't want to look bad. And I can't tell you, I got an email the other day from someone who I was doing business with. And honestly, we're doing so much business that you forget sometimes who you're doing business with. But I remember I was doing business with this woman who promised me that she was going to send me something. Okay, it's been so long ago, I couldn't even remember. I got an email from her last week before last, that said, "Hey, Fran, I just wanted to reach out and let you know that I'm sorry I dropped the ball. I didn't get you the information that I said I would get you. Are you still needing it? Are you still in the market for whatever that was?" And I started laughing and I said, "Thank you so much." I honestly forgot what we were talking about doing. I go, but what I appreciate in this email is that you didn't act like it didn't happen. Raise your virtual hand if you know people who will do wrong, do harm, whether it's intentional or not, and then know that they did wrong, but act like it didn't happen. We're just going to keep going business as usual. We're just going to keep going like nothing happened. And I said that to her. I sent it back. I said, "I appreciate that. You have no idea how much I appreciate that you didn't just act like it didn't happen." The accountability, that person I'm more likely to do business with again because of her accountability. She dropped the ball. She could admit that she dropped the ball. And yet she came back literally 2 months later, probably more than that, when she could have just forgotten about it, when she could have just said, you know what? Well, that was that. It is what it is, as people like to say. But she took the time to care enough for a relationship that may or may not turn into something for her to say, you know what? I dropped the ball. I apologize. Can I show up a different way for us today? Again, we all are challenged daily to wake up, speak up, stand up, and show up. And sometimes it's not easy to do all of those things. The last letter of the acronym is D. And this is why you earn the right to lead. I've learned this the hard way. I've learned this in so many ways, that leaders are leaders in most cases because they have the ability to deliver. They have the ability to deliver, to get it done, whatever it is. That is why people want to follow you, right? They will forgive some sins that you might commit because they know at the end of the day, you know how to get it done. You are going to get it done, especially in direct selling, because there's so much about production. There's so much about building a team and those kinds of things. And people want to be on teams with people who know how to deliver. And not only who know how to deliver 1 time out of 10, but who know how to deliver 8 times out of 10, 9.5 times out of 10. People want to follow leaders who know how to deliver. Ethically, I might add, and legally, but nevertheless, they know how to deliver. I remember when I was playing I played professionally in the WNBA, as Dr. Stan mentioned, but also I played overseas in Italy and Switzerland, and traveled to 30 countries. Just been really blessed in my life and my career to see the world. But I remember when I was playing in Italy and learning the language of speaking Italian, excuse me, and I remember the management of that team being very excited about me being there. And I also remember one game that I honestly wasn't doing very much. I wasn't doing a whole lot. The Italians kind of, when they bring the Americans or the foreigners over to their team, they really expect you to deliver. And they expect you to deliver in a machine-like way, right? There are no off days. You cannot have bad games. And I wasn't accustomed to that because I'd always played on great teams. I played on great teams at the University of Texas. My team went undefeated my senior year, so I was surrounded by great players. So if I didn't show up, it wasn't that big of a deal most of the time. But when I got to Italy, again, you are a machine. You're not even human. We need 30 points from you. We need 15 rebounds. You were never tired. And I'm not even exaggerating. That was kind of the expectation. And I remember going to this team near Sicily, and I wasn't playing very well. And my coach came up, and he didn't speak English. And at this time, I didn't speak Italian very well. And to my, I tried to pretend that I didn't speak Italian sometimes because I didn't want to know what they were saying to me. But I remember this particular game near Sicily, and he called a timeout, and he just stood there and he looked at me. And, the Italian women were looking at me and looking at him, and it was just this standoff. And he just goes off in Italian. And then I looked at my interpreter, Allie, and I said, what did he say? And she looked at him. She decided to leave out a few of his choice words, which I appreciate. But basically he said, you've been the leader of this team since you got here. And today you're not doing anything. You are not delivering. And I was like, whoa. And it was one of those moments, those moments of truth, those moments where you have to stand in your truth and you have to ask, is this true? Is what this person is saying to me and about me, is it what I know to be the truth about me? And it was. It absolutely was. Understanding the expectations that come with leadership, understanding that whether you like it every day or not, people are expecting you to deliver. People are expecting you to show up for them. Not that you can't have bad days, not that you are a machine, not that you are superhuman, but they expect a certain level, a certain quality of showing up. Now, what a lot of leaders will do with this is they think, okay, well then I can't show my weaknesses. I can't show the chinks in my armor. I can't show my vulnerabilities. That's absolutely not the case. Because if you take that from this, you will be a terrible leader. You will be a terrible leader if you take from what I just said that you have to show up perfectly. None of us are perfect. It's the imperfection. It's the standing in the imperfection. It's the acknowledgement of your shortcomings. It's the acknowledgement of the things that you may not be as good at that enable you to assemble a team around you so that you can continue to deliver at the highest level. And those are the things that I've learned over my 25 plus years of sports business that have really changed the way I lead. It's learning to listen. Again, it's an acquired skill that everybody under the sound of my voice can be better at. Learning to listen, hearing what people are saying. And here's the other thing as I recap this, not just listening, but remembering. I can't tell you the look on people's faces when they know you've listened to them because you can recall something they said. You can recall this nugget, this tidbit of information that you said in your conversation with them last week or 3 weeks ago. Listening is not just hearing. It's actually being able to recall that in the moment when they are most needed to elevate your team. The E, elevation, bringing people along with you, taking the opportunity to stop beating your chest for a moment and elevating and edifying somebody on your team so that they can stand a little taller and be a little bit better for the team. A, accountability is a superpower. Acknowledging who you are, what the pluses and the minuses, what are the ABCs of you, standing in that, and also acknowledging that you stand there with your imperfections ready to lead. That despite the imperfections that we all have, you are equipped to lead your team. And then finally, the ability to consistently deliver on the promises necessary to get you and your team to the next level. Powerful. Again, I started this off by saying that I believe we are in some of the best times of our world. And I believe that because I'm not following the 97%. Everybody on Facebook, everybody on social media would have us believe, oh, these are terrible times. We got to do this. We got to run for cover. And I believe, again, as I close, that God is calling us to wake up to what's happening in this world. There's never been a greater opportunity for us. That God is calling us to speak up about what's happening and how we can be a part of the solution. That God is calling us to stand up. Don't just sit on the sidelines complaining on Facebook about what's wrong with the world. Get engaged, get active, vote. That's the biggest voice that you're ever going to have. And then to show up as people, show up as Christians, where people can see the light that we have and go, okay, all right, that person they're not killing me with the sermon. They're showing me the sermon. They're showing me how I need to show up in the world, how I can be better through their own example. So Dr. Stan, thank you so much for having me this morning. For all of you under the sound of my voice, I pray that you have an amazing, amazing week. It has been my honor to be here with you. And I wish you the absolute best on your journey. Remember, it's time. I don't know which four of these you need to focus on right now, but again, I'm going to go through this again because I know there's something here for me. There's probably something here for someone else. I don't know if you need to wake up. I don't know if you need to speak up more. I don't know if you need to stand up more. but I believe all of us can show up better. Dr. Stan?
Wow. Come on now. That's my little sister. Come on, I'm about to set this on. Okay. I woke up. I was listening. I'm going to show you how well I was listening. But I'm not just going to wake up like you said. By the way, I got a new acronym for success, WHPP. Wake up, pray, hustle. Excuse me, WPHH. Wake up, pray, hustle honestly. So I'm going to wake up. Yeah, and then you said speak up. You're right. Some people have a voice and they're not. And thank you for speaking up today, giving your voice. Then you said stand up, and thank you again for standing and saying some things. And then you said show up, and then I had to add, after hearing you, sometimes we got to shut up and listen.
I like that. I like that. Let's add that. Let's officially add that.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, my wife, bless her heart, she said, baby, you got to stop cutting people up. You just got to breathe sometimes. Just relax. I was like, I know, it just hit my brain works so fast. She's like, baby, okay, just hold it, though. Just hold it. So, when you were talking, Fran, seriously, this really got to me because, when you said listening and you said elevate or edifying people, how honoring is that when we actually listen to people? Like you said, we can recall, we can remember. And, one of our, I love what Apostle Bettina Williams, when I speak to her, it used to bother me at first. And then I realized how honoring and what she was doing. But, I would say something to her. She said, okay, Dr. Breakthrough, let me make sure I got that right. So what I'm hearing you say is, right? Because I was ready to go on with the conversation. And she was trying to, and I was like, wow, she got it. I was like, man. So thank you. That whole accountability is a superpower. That is, oh my goodness, that's just off the chart. So you're going to be accountable. You might as well be accountable before you get caught, so you don't have to worry about getting caught. Oh, come on, somebody. And then deliver. So, Fran, that is like so simple, but yet so profound, so powerful, and so needed for us today, and to make sure that we're being people who deliver. And, Reinhard Bonnke, I was telling somebody yesterday, I read something he wrote on Facebook that so jolted me. It was so powerful. Because he said, Christian people, he said, we don't just need faith. He said, we need faith and integrity. And that's what you were speaking about today, is the right? That whole integrity piece. And so, again, thank you. You delivered. You slam dunked that bad boy. You did a 360 slam dunk. So I'm going to have to pull rank if you don't mind. You're going to have to come back. You're just going to have to now.
I would love to. Thank you.
I'm in the world and, getting your picture taken with Oprah and being in the all that. I understand. But